Hey everyone, and welcome to Today's News Tonight, the weeknight news show where we're joined by special guests and our wonderful patrons to discuss the day's gaming news. I'm your host, Ash Paulson, and I'm joined today by Derek Bittner, Steve Bowling, and our very special guest, Shesez of the mega popular Boundary Break. So, let's go ahead and get started, but as I promised you guys in the pre-show, there's my obligatory mega mention of the show, just in case I can't work out anything else in there.
Come on, Ash. You know you'll be able to work something in there as we go on.
Maybe.
It has
Maybe.
to.
Well, I guess at some point we can talk about the fact that I would love to do another Mega Man episode of Boundary Break with Shesez. So
it'll happen.
There you go.
Sure.
But how's it going, man? Thanks so much for joining us.
It's going great. Again, I'm in great company as we speak, so the day's going amazingly. And yeah, I can't wait to talk about some news with you guys.
Yeah,
same. Well, let's get right into it then. And I would say the biggest story of the day, of course, is that the Game Award nominees were revealed for this year. And of course, we won't go through all of them because there are like 25 million different categories.
Yeah.
But the most important category, Game of the Year, the most important category next to Best Music of the Year, obviously. No. Category, Game of the Year, most important category. The nominees are Animal Crossing New Horizons, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, and The Last of Us Part 2. So thoughts, guys? How do you feel about this lineup of nominees?
From what I understand, it's a pretty solid list. The funny thing is, I've only played one of the games on that list, which is Final Fantasy VII Remake. I played a week's worth of Animal Crossing, and I've wanted to play all the other games on that list. Just haven't.
Yeah, I previewed Doom Eternal, and I really enjoyed what I played, but I never got a chance to actually play the full game. I played a little bit of Ghost of Tsushima for a stream that Steve and I did a couple of weeks back, and I'm still about, I'd say, halfway through Last of Us Part 2, maybe a little more than halfway, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit, but for me, the only game I've fully played on this list is Final Fantasy VII Remake, and based on what I played of The Last of Us Part 2, FF7 Remake is still my game of the year so far, but I am going to try to finish Last of Us before the end of the year so I can have a better idea of my true game of the year opinion. I have not played Hades. I keep hearing about Hades, and I want to try it, but I don't know that much about it. But people love it.
It's a roguelike game, and
that's what I thought.
It's a highly stylized one. I think that's why people are so attached to it. Like there's really good art direction, really good voice acting, and solid sound design. It's got a lot of great concepts too. Like one of the features to it is like each time you clear a room, you can kind of see ahead of time what your rewards are going to be if you choose option A or option B or whatever. And each time you clear that room, you get that reward, and it makes your character that much stronger. Every time you die, you lose all those power-ups, and I think you can get checkpoints to hold on to things. But yeah, it's cool. It's like basically stacking your power, and the odds get like increasingly stacked against you as well. So the tension runs high. Again, the game is just all around. It's really great. Again, I don't know if it's game of the year. I think it's really good, and it came out of nowhere. Same way like Fall Guys kind of did in a way. But I don't know. Not me. I think that probably, again, I played Animal Crossing. I think that's great too. I don't think that it's a perfect package though. There were certainly complaints I had with it as much as I loved it. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I don't know. I wasn't personally in love with it. I thought it was going to be, but I didn't like some of the... I know that I've watched your episodes recently, so I know you guys loved the twist.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those people that falls on the opposite spectrum of that.
And that's fair.
Like it was a betrayal.
Totally
fair.
But,
Last of Us 2, I didn't play, but like what happened was I played the first game, and I found myself not in love with the gameplay, but in love with the story. So for the second game, I just watched all the story.
Okay.
and I actually do think the story is very emotional and impactful, and I liked it. So whether or not that constitutes as a valid opinion on whether or not it should be game of the year, maybe not. But like I think that a lot more people have been talking about Ghost of Tsushima in a positive way than any other game on this list. Doom Eternal I did get to play because of the Boundary Break episode, and that is an incredibly fun game. It's very Metroid-y, I think. Right?
Really?
It is actually.
Yeah.
I noticed that too when I previewed it. It very much is. And the whole focus on ammo management is proven to be very divisive. I liked it when I previewed it, but it is a very different feeling from Doom 2016.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why that was a little more divisive, is because 2016 just kind of knocked it out of the park. Everyone unanimously liked that game, and they decided to go with something a little bit different. And to me, I felt like it kind of added a lot more depth to the series, but like I guess there is a chunk of fans that didn't really particularly like what they did with Eternal, surprisingly. So yeah. I personally think that it's, out of all those games, the gameplay of Doom Eternal is probably the strongest out of all of them. And as far as story goes, I didn't play Ghost of Tsushima, so you guys will probably have to fill in the blank there for me. But again, I hear great things, and Last of Us 2 has a really strong story in my opinion. And so if I was to wager a guess who's going to win, because usually these things kind of go in the favor of which game gives you an emotional impact, and also presentation, of course. Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us 2, I think, is probably the strongest bet on my end, I think. Just as a guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if you hear that rumbling.
What's that?
Sorry, Derek. I don't know if you hear that rumbling outside your house, Shesez, but that's the internet coming to eviscerate you for saying something nice about The Last of Us Part 2.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think out of all of us, you've probably played the most games on this list, right? Right, Steve?
Yeah, I'm in a unique position where I've played 5 out of the 6 of these.
Wow.
So, I played a good chunk of Doom Eternal because, oddly enough, like, I'm one of the 9 people on the entire internet that reviewed Stadia. So they sent me a free copy of it to play on Stadia, and I was like, okay, and it was a good distraction. Then it came to Game Pass, so I picked it up there and started playing it on my Xbox. Obviously, I reviewed Final Fantasy VII Remake, I reviewed Ghost of Tsushima, I reviewed The Last of Us Part 2, and I reviewed Animal Crossing. So I played a lot of these.
Every game you reviewed ended up in the Game of the Year category. So
yeah,
there you go.
I review the good ones, apparently. The only game I haven't played at all is Hades. And I'm going to be honest with you. So I'm going to make the internet mad for a couple of reasons right now. One, I think Hades is on here because of recency bias. I think it is a hugely popular game and I'm not saying it's not a good game, but I wonder, I look at it and I feel like it lacks that something that pushes it into Game of the Year.
Well, for one thing, it's not a AAA game category. It's the only one on the list that's like an indie game, which is weird.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, without having played it, it's real hard to make a fair assessment, right? That's just my gut. Like Celeste, I think at least had a powerful message, and it was a Game of the Year nominee last year, I think, or 2 years ago. Yeah, and I think that at least carried with it a really powerful message. So I could understand its inclusion. Plus, it was a hard as hell platformer. So people sunk lots of time into it. Animal Crossing, again, is another weird one for me. I think in any year where we were allowed out of the house, the Animal Crossing probably wouldn't be on the list.
Sure.
That being said, it's a great game. For me, though, The Last of Us 2 definitely takes it. I find it interesting when I'm playing a game and the game forces me into situations that I don't want to be in, but manages to walk that fine line of kind of turning me off emotionally, but keeping the controller in my hand. And I think The Last of Us 2 is one of the only games that's done that in a very long while for me, but the only game on this list for sure. Tsushima is an excellent game. I platinumed it. I very rarely continue to trophy hunt after I've reviewed and finished a game, but I did platinum it. But to me, it's more like a really good action flick, and not like a, I think the comparison I made a while back was, I'm not going to go back in 10 years and be like, wow, let me boot up Ghost of Tsushima again. It's not one of those put it on the shelf and pull it down every now and then to relive it kind of games, where I think for me personally, The Last of Us 2 is definitely one of those.
I think that's seems to be a common thing with Sucker Punch games, because Infamous, all 3 Infamous games, when I picked them up, I enjoyed them. I played them to the 100%, wanted to do everything, really enjoyed it. Never went back to any of them. Never felt the need to replay any of them. And it's just one of those things okay, you get your fill and I'm good. I don't need to come back and see how it's all going. And I guess Ghost of Tsushima is very much like that as well. But it's funny how platinums can sort of indicate, like, you put in that time, you were addicted that much, and like, that's my game of the year. And that's Final Fantasy VII Remake for me, because I played through it twice so I could get that, because you have to in order to get that hard mode. And I did that whole thing, the guide of how to do all the dresses, which is the biggest pain in the neck ever, because you got to replay those sections to show off all the different dresses. And it's like, thanks. It's just like, that's the stupidest one.
I'm honestly happy just to see FF7 Remake on here, just because, it was pretty divisive for various reasons. And I feel like Square Enix games, because they tend to be, cater to a very specific crowd, they sometimes get snubbed. And I am really happy to see it here at all. Not that the Game Awards are, that important in the grand scheme of things, but it is nice to see it represented here. I don't think it's going to win. I do agree with you. She says that probably the strongest bets, if I had to guess who's going to win, I think it's going to be The Last of Us Part 2 or maybe Ghost of Tsushima. But I'm leaning toward The Last of Us Part 2. And I almost hope it is, just so I can see the internet get pissed off about it.
I mean, I'll be honest. I think Animal Crossing has a good shot. Just because it was it was sort of the game of 2020. Everybody picked it up. Everybody was talking about it. It just sort of carried us through that really rough time. And granted, it did blow up mainly because of the circumstances it was released in, but that's got to count for something, because
now if it weren't for the verbiage on the site, I would agree with you 100%, but they say it's recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. So that to me leans into, like, they're talking about the quality of the game. And I think Animal Crossing, for as fun as it is and engaging as it is, and for as many new people as it brought into gaming this year, it definitely, like, anybody that's played it for more than an hour can point out at least 3 or 4 quality of life changes they could make to make it an easier, more streamlined experience. Like, go to the freaking airport and talk to someone, and you'll realize instantly, you're like, wow, if I was developing this menu, I would change this fast. And we're almost 8 months on, and it's still the same.
Yeah, I was just talking to A+ Start about this, and he was like, I just booted up like yesterday, and I why is it so cumbersome just to make fish bait? Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many simple things they could do to make it a much more refined experience, and it's just weird. Like, 8 months ago in my review, I called it out. I'm like, there are parts of this game that feel refreshing and new, and parts of this game that feel like they just locked their design in back in 2001 on the GameCube and just have kept going. So I hope that we get those QOL changes, but to me at least, that is a tough pill to swallow. I'm not saying any of these games are perfect, though. None of them I can point to and be like 10 out of 10, no notes, don't change anything. So, Animal Crossing has a legit shot, but I would say it's, to me, the labored point I'm trying to make here is that it's kind of a game that defines 2020, but I wouldn't necessarily call it my game of the year for 2020, if that makes sense.
Sure.
That's fair.
The hard part for me about The Last of Us Part 2 is, as much as I'm enjoying it, I have found that the gameplay, as good as it is, and it is great gameplay, it feels so similar to the first game that it just isn't standing out to me, I guess. It's great, and it's a great game, but it's not, the gameplay aspect of it doesn't stand out to me as much as something like FF7 Remake, because that battle system to me in that game truly was a revelation for what they were going for. And I think Square Enix really, really nailed the battle system in general. There are a few things I would change, but gameplay-wise, the game that stands out to me most here is FF7 Remake, just because I wasn't expecting them to go with the battle system they did and nail it the way they did.
Battle system, honestly, is the best part of Final Fantasy VII Remake, if not one of.
I can agree with that too. Yeah,
I would say if you're talking strictly moment to moment gameplay mechanics, this for me would be a fight between FF7 Remake and Doom Eternal. Like, those two games are exhilarating to play every second you're playing them.
Yeah.
So the battle system, like Doom Eternal is the kind of game where when I finally hit some downtime, I find myself catching my breath. And FF7 Remake is like when you're in full on battle, I don't think any game controls better on this list.
Yeah.
I agree.
Between the two, I would pick Doom Eternal. But absolutely. Gameplay wise, you just nailed it. I'm just repeating what you just said. 100%. Those two games are the most top tier in terms of gameplay. I think. Well, combat. Because Animal Crossing certainly does have a lot going on. I mean, the fact that I think I have like 500 hours in Animal Crossing.
Oh my God.
Horizons, and I stopped playing that months ago. Yeah. So there was a long period of time where I was sucked into this game. So if a game can get me to play 500 hours, they're doing something right with the gameplay, for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I wish I had more time and experience with Ghost of Tsushima, just because I really liked what I played like the first 3 hours or so, and I had a great time with the multiplayer with Steve. That was a blast.
Yeah.
And I really want to play more of it because that could stand a chance at being, my game of the year if I had. Funny story about Ghost of Tsushima though. My wife had literally no context for it whatsoever when I started talking about it. So when I got that code from you, Steve, to do the multiplayer stream, and I started booting it up, she's like, "What's this?" And I said, "Oh, it's Ghost of Tsushima." She's like, "Wait, it is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And she's like, "I had no idea what it was or how you even spelled Tsushima out of context." So she thought it was a sequel or at least related to Sushi Striker. So she thought it was like a game about sushi. And so she sees this really dark, violent, gritty, samurai game. She's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, Ghost of Tsushima. That's not sushi." So I thought that was a really good moment. Wow. I kind of want that, though. I want a sushi version of Ghost of Tsushima now. I think that sounds like a blast.
Okay.
I don't know how it would work. Yeah,
that would be exactly the kind of weird DLC that would be right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Just running through the rest of the list here, a couple of highlights. Best multiplayer, we have both Among Us, which is funny because it's a 2018 game, and Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout, both of which I would say deserve to be there. Among Us, I bounced off hard. It is not my kind of game, but I do have a weekly Monday multiplayer session with a couple of my best buds for Fall Guys. Every Monday night we play Fall Guys and have a few drinks and have a blast.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's
I saw a lot of people very upset that Origami King did not get nominated for best soundtrack.
I was about to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. And not just best score of music. It also got, in my opinion, snubbed from best art direction because that game is truly gorgeous to behold. Mm-hmm. And I really do feel like Origami King got snubbed in both art direction and music. The music especially. God, that sound... I didn't think that anything would come even close to eclipsing FF7 Remake for me musically. And Origami King made me think twice about it. And I'm still playing it. So... it's a shame, but I just don't think Origami King isn't unfortunately the kind of game that I think gets considered.
Yeah,
for
they like their orchestras and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny because the Origami King the whole soundtrack was done by a live band. It's fantastic, but what are you gonna do?
I
best
will
indie
say,
game, Fall Guys is on there. Carrion.
Oh no, I was just looking at this. I have a friend who every time the Oscars comes around, he watches all the nominees just so we can have an informed opinion about the movies. And that's, that seems kind of fun. It's like, I wish I could at least do the same for the Game of the Year nominees, but there's no way I have the time. It's one of those things if I can marathon through and have that idea, but
to be fair, to watch all the nominees for the Oscars is maybe a couple days worth of effort.
Yeah, exactly.
If you marathon those movies, you've got maybe 12 to 15 hours of movie viewing ahead of you. You will be halfway through Final Fantasy VII Remake in that same amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm surprised to see Marvel's Iron Man VR here and best VR/AR game because I had heard really terrible things.
I mean, it might just be limited options.
Sure. It is cool to see. I don't know if this category existed last year, but innovation in accessibility. I do love that category exists, and I feel like The Last of Us Part 2 might win it just because it went all the way in on accessibility features, and I do love that. Best action game. It's nice to see Streets of Rage 4 nominated. I would absolutely vote for that game. I thought Streets of Rage 4 was fantastic, and I still go back to it constantly. Let's see. Persona 5 Royal is on Best RPG. Best Family Game, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. That's an interesting twist.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
no.
Odd. Right? I know. Yeah.
I think they're just struggling for family games at that point.
Yeah. Origami King is on Best Family Game, though, so at least it got some shout-out.
Yeah, I mean, there are genres every year that kind of languish in these nominations. Like, for instance, we have fighting games and you have freaking One Punch Man, which fun,
right?
Okay, but it's it's not going to compare to like Mortal Kombat 11 or Street Fighter 5.
Right.
So yeah, I think there are some where they just, they know that the pickings are slim.
I love that best mobile game. One of the nominees is Pokemon Cafe Mix. What the hell?
Limited options.
Well, I guess so. Yeah.
How do you ignore a Pokemon game in the mobile category?
Right. Best indie game, Derek. Spiritfarer is a nominee, and I know you really loved that game.
I really enjoyed that game. That game,
yeah,
surprised me with how it pulled me in. Like, there's a lot of games I've played this year that I don't normally get into that kind of genre, but they had something special about them that really clicked with me and made me just love them.
Nice.
Spiritfarer is one. My review of Sakuna is coming soon, and spoilers, but same thing.
Yeah. Speaking of Pokemon Cafe Mix, or whatever it's called, I think that's it. We have big news on another Pokemon mobile game today, being Pokemon Go, which is expanding a ton with its first ever named update called Go Beyond. And they've never done this before. They have done generational updates for new Pokemon and stuff, but they've never done a whole new, named expansion like this. And as part of Go Beyond, we're getting Generation 6 Pokemon for the first time. So we're getting the Kalos region represented for the first time, and there's a whole lot to this. Does anyone here play Pokemon Go anymore, or did you ever play Pokemon Go? I know you did, Derek.
I played it in the lead up to Let's Go because I was trying to make sure I could have a complete Pokedex for that game, for a video related to that, and got close to help me out, I guess, but I haven't played it since. It's just such a time sink, and it's so hard to get out, and not, there's only so many places I can go to get it done. And I got into it for a while, but I really do have my peaks and valleys with Pokemon Go, and I don't see myself coming back to it. It's just no. But that said, there are interesting things in here that I can see hardcore fans really being into. Like the seasons idea is interesting, where different Pokemon are favored depending on the time of year. And it'll change whether you're northern or southern hemisphere. The fact that they raised the level cap and the way you get to that next level is a little bit more objective based is interesting. Of course, you got the Gen 6 Pokemon. I actually saw Joe Merrick, Cerebi, mention that he was surprised they didn't update the name like they have with other games out there. Like I think it was like Pokemon Masters it was Pokemon Masters, now it's Pokemon Masters EX or something like that. And it's like, why didn't they call this Pokemon Go Beyond? But I guess Go is just so integral. It's like, no, let's don't confuse people. It's still just Pokemon Go.
I can't believe that that no one caught the problematic part of Pokemon Masters EX. I really can't.
That's why I'm laughing over here when you
say it. I love that they didn't, though. I'm so glad they didn't. Like, that just, you can't make that up.
Didn't they change it now? They drop the S? Isn't that what they did? Or did they do nothing?
What did they do? They did something I can't remember. I can't.
What they did.
I wish they hadn't. Yeah. I mean, I get why they had to, but I wish they hadn't. Interestingly enough, one of the Kalos region Pokemon they're adding to Pokemon Go is Klefki, but it's a region exclusive to France. So I don't know if I remember there being any region exclusive.
Oh,
Pokemon
no, there was. Like, you could
1.
only get Farfetch'd in Japan, Kangaskhan in Australia.
Past Gen 1 I meant. Like, in Gen 1 I know there were, but I don't
each
know
gen has their own regional exclusive. Okay. Yeah. Oh, they like.
I remember how happy I was. I remember how, like, because my wife and I used to play a ton of Pokemon Go. We were really into it for, like, Gen 1. And we went to Japan one of the years we were playing, and I was hoping so much to get a Farfetch, and I didn't get one. I kept, like, not being in the right place at the right time. Then literally the very last night, our last night in Japan, we were packing in our Airbnb, and a Farfetch spawned right on top of the Airbnb, and I was able to get it at the last second. So that was a pretty cool thing.
I remember when they had the whole egg promotion where Pokemon from other regions could be hatched, and you had that chance. And I have this love of Farfetch that started with Gen 6, honestly. So I wanted Farfetch so bad, and I just kept hatching him until I got my Farfetched.
Nice. Let's see. There's also a level cap in. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Oh no, I was just gonna say my experience. I have exactly 17 hours of experience with Pokemon Go,
Very
and
specific.
I know that. Yeah, well, Pokemon Go came out in July of 2016, and I'm very familiar with the time frame because one of my children was also released in July 2016, and so the extent of my Pokemon Go experience was playing it in a hospital room. And so, you know,
Please tell me you got
about
a
having an
there.
infant is that you can't just go to the park and hunt for Pokemon whenever you want. So yeah, I ended up looking, you know, I ended up playing it intensely for the time, you know, that my kid wasn't part of the world yet. And then as soon as she was born, I put it down, and then the ensuing 6 months kind of removed my interest. So I've not been back, but I mean, I kind of like looked at it and I was like, okay, you know, and I know they've done a ton of stuff since then, but it's just never brought me back because there's always been other stuff to play. But I was just like, okay, so you catch Pokemon and then what? Like, you put one in a gym?
Yeah.
But then you don't.
Yeah,
And I just remember Pokemon Go 1.0 just not having anything to really hold my interest. But tons of my friends were super into it, and where I live in Arizona, like, businesses were putting up signs like, oh, hey, we're a Pokestop. You can hang out here and play Pokemon Go. And I was like, all right, well, I feel very separated from the rest of the world right now. But I imagine, you know, this, I mean, how does a game like Pokemon Go work when everyone's at home?
They've been doing some things
to
adjust for it and try to make it happen. But yeah, it's been interesting. I know you haven't really played Pokemon Go at all, she says. It just never clicked with you?
It's just the idea of putting a Nintendo game in mobile format, where it's like, I love Nintendo games for their high quality, you know, AAA kind of experiences. And and anything that gets transferred to mobile, it's like it's piecemeal type stuff. You know, oh, you got wait times, you got to spend extra money to do this and that. I'm like, well, that's not the Nintendo experience for me. So I just never gave it a chance, really, because I was thinking to myself, like, well, I could give this a shot, but at the same time too, I know that another Pokemon game is going to be right around the corner on, you know, Switch or whatever, and that's definitely probably more up my alley. So why don't I just, you know, wait for that? And I just kind of let the whole fad pass right by me. And everyone was always surprised too, because lots of people that never even played Nintendo games casually like I did would tell me that they had the app, and I'd be like, I don't play, and they were like, you, the guy that always talks about freaking Mario and all this stuff, when we're talking about other things in life, and you don't have Pokemon Go? I'm like, yeah, I know, isn't that funny? But yeah, no, sorry, I don't.
I definitely hear what you're saying about Nintendo mobile games in general, but I have to say, I'm still, and I don't play it anymore. I played it for maybe the better part of a year, maybe about a year, but I'm still surprised by just how incredibly generous Fire Emblem Heroes is for a mobile game.
You know what's funny?
It gives you so much.
2 days ago, I just downloaded the app because I've had Fire Emblem fever.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah.
Nice.
I know you're excited for Shadow Dragon.
Super
Ash, I know
excited,
you couldn't see it, but I was becoming increasingly nervous thinking you were about to say Mario Kart Tour.
Oh, God, no.
I was going to get very upset with you.
I played Mario Kart Tour for like 10 minutes and I deleted it. I hated it. It's just so not what I want from Mario Kart. I thought it was actively bad.
I got Fire Emblem Heroes when it came out. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I started getting really sad that I wasn't getting I was trying all these times and I wasn't getting the stuff I wanted. I didn't want to spend money on it, and I knew the path I was going down. I was like, nope, I gotta put it away. I can't do it.
You know what's funny is I really wanted Alm, and it was like immediately available as soon as I booted up the game, and I was like, perfect, all right, I got what I wanted out of this game.
That's
I couldn't get any of the rare ones that I really wanted. And trust me, one of my favorite girls in Fire Emblem is from Path of Radiance, Mia. She's always been one of my best characters when I play Path of Radiance, and I've seen her, and they have variations of her, like when here's like her Easter form and her winter form and all that stuff, and it's like, nope, that's a trap. Staying away, because I'm not going to get her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm really excited about like the lesser units and stuff like that. I want to kind of pull those and see what they look like with the new art styles and stuff. But sorry, I'm probably.
Yeah. Oh no, you're cool. Like
no, you're good.
I'm with you. Like I'm really excited to try out Shadow Dragon as well. I love seeing the history of that. I have the DS version, so I haven't tried it yet. So with my whole thing that I've been doing, I haven't done it in a while, where I was playing through the Fire Emblem games in the release order that we got in the States. Shadow Dragon was actually my next one, and I do this thing where if I lose a unit, I don't restart, so they're dead.
Yeah,
and it certainly makes it interesting. I remember losing every apparently best unit in Blazing Blade, the first Game Boy Advance one, and everybody was like, "Oh, you're screwed now." And I still beat the game. It's just, you just don't. You might not have the best units, but you can still pull it off.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
I was just gonna say that like for the longest time, I did not understand the Fire Emblem culture. It seemed really like there's a huge gate that kind of stops new players from really getting into the series. Permadeath being one of them. Being underleveled or underprepared when you get several chapters and stuff like that. But yeah, what happened was I ended up playing, what was it? Shadows of Valentia again. And I went back to this part of the game where it was just like really difficult. And as a result, it put a force on my back, not to just, brute force my way through the level, instead actually strategize. And when I actually had to do that, I was like, oh wow, it's starting to click for me. And I then went back and played other Fire Emblem games, and I was like, okay, now I understand terrain differences, and obviously, some swords have better accuracy than lances, and all this stuff, and all of a sudden, like, wow, okay, now that I'm accumulating all of this information, I can actually go into these really intimidating scenarios and come out on top. Like, this is awesome. And so then, all of a sudden, that announcement happened with the NES game, and I've had shower thoughts for years of like, wonder what it would be like if like Nintendo actually did translate it themselves, and how would that translation look? And all of a sudden, like, this thing happened, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Someone want to wake me up right now? And then they were like, oh yeah, we're also going to release like the NES box, and here's a Nintendo Power mock-up, and I was like,
yeah, I think I missed out getting that special edition.
I am so in, yeah. So I am like, when that happened, all of a sudden I'm like, I need something to bide my time, because I all I can think about is this one game. And so like I've been going to all of the games. I played Genealogy of the Holy War.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I haven't even played that one.
I've been playing what was it called? Well, Mystery of the Emblem, yeah, which is the remake.
That's the third game that was on DS, right? Mm-hmm. Or did you play the SNES version?
And like I said, I downloaded the app, and I was like, oh, this one, I don't think this one's... I bet you once I beat all the games, I'm going to really want to play this. But I was like, but there's still so much more out there for me to finish. And so I booted up that free download that I got from Nintendo when they messed up on the pricing of the 3DS. And, we got Sacred Stones, I believe it was, for free.
Yeah. Nice.
That's a solid one.
Now I've been playing that and trying to get through that, which that's a really good one. I love the animation and art style and stuff.
It's actually possible to grind in that one if you need to. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Because
as cool as it is that they're doing the localized release of Shadow Dragon, and I love that. I think it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I got to be that guy and say that it does make the whole Mother 3 situation hurt that much worse. Like it absolutely reopened that wound that had scarred over fairly well by this point. I had moved on, I had accepted it. And then, of course, they go and do this, and they just reopen that wound, poured some lemon juice in it, and now the pain is back.
The worst part is, what it is? Is the worst part for me is that all this gives me hope when there shouldn't be any there.
There shouldn't be any. I know.
It's one of those things is, can they get past the problematic elements, which I think in the Magypsies in Mother 3's case, but there's also like, I don't know if we'll ever get, I guess it depends on how well Shadow Dragon does, but will we ever get Genealogy and Thracia 776? And I forget which one of those is, but there's from what I understand, just from hearsay, there's a bit of an incest plot within Genealogy or Thracia. Now, granted, this is not uncommon for Fire Emblem, because if you played Fates, your brothers and sisters are completely dateable.
Yeah, Fates is so weird. Just to be very clear, I think what you meant, Derek, when you said problematic, the Magypsies themselves are not. It's the name and the fact that one of them comes on to Lucas, a child, quite
the stereotype of what they look like, I think, is also
exactly the stereotype. Exactly.
Oh, it's genealogy. Thank you, Atinio.
Well, I think
I don't know how they get past that. I really don't.
I can tell you how they get past that. They remake it like they did with Shesez of Valentia.
Oh, I want that. I want a remake like that so badly.
Yeah, I think it's very possible. I mean,
think so?
Why would they suddenly stop doing remakes? They've been doing it for a little while now, right? So I think it's the next one down the line, I believe. Because they've already remade the first, they already remade the direct sequel to the first, and they've now done.
And then they did the second because they did the first, the third, and then the second. Yeah. And unfortunately, we got Shadow Dragon, but Shadow Dragon wasn't, because it's so bare bones. People didn't really gravitate toward it, and so they didn't bother bringing over Mystery of the Emblem or New Mystery of the Emblem, and that one apparently is way better, and we never got it.
Yeah, it was like another thing too. It's like I have no interest in going back to the DS remake because it's just a hideous game. Like one of the reasons why Fire Emblem is so marvelous is that it does a lot with the battle animations, and it always maximizes.
Yeah. Oh man, those Game Boy Advance animations, like Lynn's critical hits. Holy crap, they can look so good.
The ones on Game Boy Advance are absolutely stunning, and I'm just so mesmerized by it.
Yeah.
Now, in comparison to that Shadow Dragon remake on DS, it's like, oh, look at you. What is that?
One of the things I want to do is play the NES and then go to the DS remake and see, compare. Let's see how this let's see how this works.
Okay. Well, I guess in that regard, you might be onto something. It's like a stark black background and Marth just going from this to to that, So
yeah.
It might look.
I really wish I could
make to that.
I really wish I could make more time for Fire Emblem because I was never a big fan of the earlier games in the series, but I really enjoyed what I played of Awakening. And then I did a feature for GameSpot on Fates, which I enjoyed the game itself. The story was just the dumbest nonsense imaginable, but the gameplay itself was a lot of fun. And I really want to play Three Houses because everyone talks about how great it is, but there's just too much to play, as always. But I do want to make more time for it. And whenever anybody mentions Shadows of Valentia or Three Houses, my mind goes immediately to their amazing soundtracks. And that could be said for the whole series. But that final battle theme from Shadows of Valentia, Twilight of the Gods, I think it is so unbelievable. So good. And then also God-Shattering Star from Three Houses. My God, that song. These soundtracks are some of the best ever out there. Oh, they're so good.
Yeah, it was super duper good. And once I beat Shesez of Valentia, I was listening to that soundtrack, that final song in particular, almost daily. So good. Yeah, I was like, wow.
It's a crime that it didn't get added to Smash in any way, either as part of the base game or along with Byleth. Same thing with God-Shattering Star. It's such a shame.
I agree.
But we've been talking about Fire Emblem for quite a while, so let's go ahead and move on. It was worth it.
Oh no, I love it.
Let's keep the focus on Nintendo for now, though, and talk about the company behind the Switch's HD Rumble. We have found out is also responsible for the DualSense's haptic feedback. The DualSense being the PS5 controller. So this is a company named Immersion. It's based right here in California, actually. And this just makes me even more excited to finally get my hands on a DualSense because I have always, ever since the Switch launched, I have been shouting from the rooftops about how much I think HD Rumble adds when it's implemented well. I still feel that way. I think HD Rumble is awesome. And I keep hearing about how great the haptic feedback in the DualSense is. I'm almost more excited about the DualSense than I am the PS5 itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was close to calling this, really, really close. So in my review of the PlayStation 5, I said that the haptics in the DualSense felt like a more advanced version of the Switch's HD Rumble. And I had no clue that the same company was behind both of them. So honestly, that is probably accurate. But yeah, the DualSense, I mean, consoles are neat. New consoles are cool. But really, the controller is what we interact with more than anything else, right? And that's true of any console. Whatever your primary interface is what you're going to mess with the most. You usually just plug the console in and there it sits for a number of years. I I think the SSD and stuff like that in the PS5 are cool, but none of them were like, I don't want to say like mind blowing. They weren't like mind blowing. Like it's cool, and you're like, wow, games load really fast, and wow, everything's in 4K and looks really pretty. But when your controller, like your triggers, actually fight you back, like that's like that is an experience that you don't shake off as easily. Like you're just like, wow, this is every time I play a PS5 game and I feel like resistance in those triggers, I'm still kind of like, how do they do that? Like, and I think that it's really cool that it makes sense to me, because I was always somewhat impressed by HD Rumble. I think Nintendo obviously does the best job of actually utilizing that tech, because there are a lot of third-party games on Switch that the Joy-Con or the Pro Controller just gets insanely noisy. Like, instead of rumbling, it somehow just emits a high-pitched squeal, and I don't know what the hell is going on there. But
developers should use that to their advantage.
Yeah,
One
developer did. Kirby Star Allies. Did you ever play the end of that?
No, what happened?
Oh,
you've
so
never seen
good.
This. You need to look this up afterwards,
cool.
she says, because when you beat the bonus stage in Kirby Star Allies, they have this statue that rises up from the ground, and from the controller you get the Kirby theme, but there's no speaker in there. Obviously, they recreated the music using the HD Rumble. It is mind blowing.
Oh my god! And I can look that up.
It's
somehow.
really cool.
I think somebody showed it off or something like that, because it is just, I couldn't believe it. I've had a hard time noticing HD Rumble, and from what I can tell, it's kind of fallen to the wayside with a lot of Switch games, unless I haven't really noticed, but because I didn't notice in the first place. But yeah, that's still the most impressive one. And kind of carrying that over to the DualSense, I'm kind of curious whether they'll keep up that whole haptic feedback for the DualSense as well, to have that extra engagement, or people aren't noticing and don't care, so we're not going to bother.
I don't know if I'd say it's fallen by the wayside. It's used to great effect in Super Mario 35. It's slight, but that little tick that you get when you pick up coins is really just satisfying. I liked it in the Age of Calamity demo. I don't think it's necessarily the focal point of the Switch, but I don't know if it's been necessarily gone by the wayside. One game though that I have to call out, third-party game that has some of the best HD Rumble in the system, Okami HD. Like, I recommend the Switch version above all others because of the HD Rumble. The way the HD Rumble like recreates the pitter-patter of Ami's paws, like it's kind of irregular. It's not like a set pattern, but it's irregular, and it's just so cool. I love it. And that's just that and Mario Odyssey, I think, are my two favorite examples of HD Rumble. But like when you're swimming in Mario Odyssey, it's such a cool feeling. And yeah, I'm really excited to check out the DualSense. And based on what you said, Steve, I have good reason to be.
Yeah, now I didn't have any interest in PS5. Not that I was a hater or anything. I was just like, once a game is out there that I absolutely have to have, I'll pick this thing up. But the way you guys are describing it right now, I'm like, okay. Yeah, I want to see what they're talking about. That sounds really cool, because I do, when it is I don't know, it doesn't happen too often with me that I notice the HD Rumble. I think there was like a couple of examples where the game was being really quirky about it, and you could feel something roll from one end of the Joy-Con to the other, and it's like, oh, that was really cool. But like, it's so infrequent that I stop and notice, like, whoa, look at the way it's like really kind of interacting with the game itself. But like, to me, I think that maybe that was my fault, where I just I don't sense it. Maybe it's not as prevalent enough for me to even notice. So if it's like you say, where it's got a stronger feedback on the PlayStation 5 controller, I'd be very excited to see what exactly that feels like, and if it does feel distinct.
I think you'll probably enjoy it, she says, because I'm with you in that the Switch's HD Rumble, there are a few games where I'm like, oh, that's really neat, but by and large, I don't notice I don't notice nuance in the rumble. I notice it's rumbling. It just doesn't feel like anything to me. Whereas with the DualSense, I can say that I actually I intuitively understand how the rumble on the DualSense feeds into what's happening on screen.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at right now. So again, where do I gotta go, guys? Who do I gotta talk to? Let me see if
I know. I
gotta
find one of these things.
Like I said, at the very least, you got to check out that Kirby video, like an example of that Kirby song afterwards.
I am, as soon as we're done with this, is exactly what I'm doing. That's
I dropped a link to that song in the chat for our audience, so it's floating around out there.
Okay,
nice. Well, speaking of the PS5, we have had the system's launch sales in Japan revealed, and to the surprise of absolutely no one, it's utterly slaughtering the Xbox Series X in Japan. What? So in its first 4 days, I know, like
shocking. I think Microsoft was like whatever.
Yeah. But in its first 4 days on sale, the PS5 sold 118,000 units compared to 21,000 units in the same period of time for the Xbox Series X and S. That's both systems. So it's pretty rough over there for Microsoft, but it always has been. That's no surprise. And according to Famitsu, 88% of those PS5 sales were the disc-based version, not the digital version.
Makes sense.
Which doesn't surprise me. Yeah, that seems to be the case everywhere pretty much, that the regular one is the more popular model. That's the one I want, personally. But yeah, I mean, that's a pretty rough split for the Xbox Series X in Japan. For launch games, perhaps unsurprisingly, Spider-Man Miles Morales was the top placer with 18,640 copies sold through. Followed very closely, actually, by Demon's Souls with 18,607. Wow. So that's a 30. Yeah, that's barely 40 votes. Of difference there, or votes, sales. I don't know.
You tell what Ash has been preoccupied with.
Yeah.
But what do you mean?
Well, votes. I mean, we are in America.
Oh,
voting.
That's true. Oh, voting in general. Oh God, yeah, voting in general. Please don't remind me. It's been an interesting time here in America, but so hats off to Sony. Not surprising that they absolutely slaughtered Xbox in Japan, but what's going to be curious or more interesting is the split in the US, I think, and in the UK. So, what do you guys have any predictions there in terms of how things are going to shake out for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S long term?
So long term, I think it's going to stay just about the same in Japan. And I've always been curious. I know that Microsoft made an attempt during the 360 era to kind of acquisition a couple of big names from Japanese developers like Sakaguchi and maybe more. I'm trying to think, but I can't at the moment. With Blue Dragon, trying to get the Dream Team back and make lightning in a bottle once again, which it just simply didn't happen, unfortunately. But that kind of reroutes to what I was just trying to think here. Like if they targeted more towards Japanese players and had exclusive games that were worth their time, do you think they would ever be able to break that bias? That's what's curious to me. What do you guys think? Yeah? No? They've
tried for so long, and they've had exclusives for so long. Like they had Tales of Vesperia exclusive for a while, but then in Japan they got the Tales of Vesperia on PS3, and it was simply a better version. I think what ended up happening a lot is Japanese developers would use the 360 as, we'll be exclusive when you get that extra bonus, and then put out a more definitive edition on PS3. Like use that money to just make a better PS3 version that would then sell better. And it's just never like... good exclusives being trapped in the 360 just doesn't stick in Japan. I think Blue Dragon and Lost Odyssey are like some of the exceptions, but I don't know. It just I can't think of anything they could do, and especially they don't have any exclusives here. So unless they're like they get people interested in Game Pass, like Game Pass is their ticket. Like, granted, I doubt very many Japanese players have not gotten Dragon Quest 11 at this point or 11S, but if they haven't, Game Pass is a good way to do that and have a bunch of other games as well. So I think maybe Game Pass could get in there for Microsoft, but I don't think a console can do it.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I don't think there's a good path forward right now for Microsoft in Japan. I think that what Shesez kind of began to touch on, that there's kind of like a cultural bias in Japan. PlayStation and Nintendo are the home teams out there, and they are always going to outperform, unless Microsoft does something drastic. I think, there is an Xbox Japan division, but the only story I can think of is how badly they blundered like the launch of the original Xbox. I remember they had developers initially interested, and I can't remember what they did. I wish I remembered the full anecdote, but it's like they inadvertently, just because of their lack of understanding of business culture over there, like did something incredibly insulting, and like a big developer who was considering creating exclusives just walked out, and that was kind of emblematic of what would be Xbox's fortunes in Japan for the rest of time. I think the key forward for them is not exclusives but acquisitions, but the problem is their reputation in Japan is so bad that what company would willingly get in bed with them at this point over there? Like what company would really say, oh yeah, I want to tie myself to this? So
unless they just let's look at that American and European market and just like, well, screw the Japanese market, let's go all in for those markets.
I think the way right now, if you don't buy a Japanese studio, to get Xbox's name out there in Japan is to go fully as a cloud service provider and make a client on PlayStation or Switch. Like get Game Pass and create a client for it for a console people in Japan are already buying, and then maybe they'll subscribe to your service. Yeah. But I think that's the only way you're doing it. I don't think even on smartphones people are going to go out of their way to subscribe to an Xbox service. But if it lets you play 4K or, not 4K necessarily, but visually rich games on something that is relatively underpowered like the Switch, I could see that happening. Cloud games in Japan on the Switch are popular.
Yeah.
It is. It has been interesting to see the divergent foci between Microsoft and Sony in this generation, where Microsoft is going all in on the service aspect of the Xbox, where you've got Game Pass. They're pushing that, I would say, more than the consoles themselves, whereas Sony is still very much sticking to its traditional console-based approach, really pushing the PS5 itself as a product more than stuff like PlayStation Now. So I'm really curious to see. I agree with everything you guys are saying about Japan. Microsoft has no path forward there, other than what you said, I think, Steve. But I am really curious to see how those two different, approaches shake out elsewhere in the world, in other markets. I'm really curious to see how things are going to look once all the dust is settled post-launch.
Mm-hmm.
I think, as far as what they're doing right now, I don't see Series X pulling out on top. It seems like right now the conversation is a lot more, at least as far as I can see on the online landscape, it seems like it's more geared towards PlayStation 5. And obviously the big reason there is because there's more games to talk about with it, right?
There's actually new games to talk about,
Right. Yeah. And, I remember there was this article where I think it was Phil Spencer said something along the lines of, don't quote me on this, I just remember this, him saying something along the lines of like, exclusives are not important. It's about services and stuff like that. And I was like, no. At the end of the day, it's still the games, man. Exclusives. You have to get the games. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But with that still said, they did manage to acquire Bethesda. That's a huge gain. And so when they start utilizing those IPs, hopefully they utilize those IPs. Because again, if they have the same negotiation contract as Rare, oh my God, you got to do something with those IPs. But
Bethesda makes Kinect Sports on Series
X.
Right.
And, it's like I'm totally fine with Rare doing what they want to do. I'm cool with that. But Microsoft, you own those other IPs. You got to stop being like, hey, Rare, can we let someone else use Banjo? And for them to say no, it's like, no, you have to put on the daddy pants and say, listen, you have your shot. You want to make the Banjo game? No, all right, we're gonna give it off to Playtonic or something like that. Because otherwise they're just sitting in a bank, and it's like you have very valuable stuff that you can use to sell your consoles with, and it's not happening. So anyways, I don't see that happening with Bethesda, but certainly like that's what they need to start doing, is showing this incredible bank of IPs that they have sitting around and start utilizing them, and then all of a sudden the value of the console will skyrocket. I will buy an Xbox Series X. I will make this public. Phil, if you're listening, I will. If you make a remake or a sequel to Banjo-Kazooie, 100% you'll be the console that I buy.
Easily.
Totally.
Oh, yeah. Remake Banjo-Kazooie, that's a guaranteed sale for me.
Same.
Easily.
100% same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we move on, just to address a couple of comments in the chat, Itsumo says, I finally got to listen live. Hi, gang. We're glad that you finally did get to listen live, so thanks for joining us, Itsumo.
Yeah.
let's see. And then there was Tyler Rogers who said, I thought Sackboy may have had higher sales. It could. That's based on the VG247 article. That was our source for this article. So you may be right. Also, Dennis J. This is pretty shocking. Apparently, Microsoft's DirectX's original name was the Manhattan Project because it was their initiative to destroy Japanese dominance of the gaming industry, which, that
I have heard
was
that.
not...
I have heard that before, and yep.
That is a horrible idea. That actually reminds me of a quick anecdote. This is wild, but a few years ago, I went to a Japanese restaurant in LA, and I was looking over the cocktail menu, and I kid you not, guys, one of the names of the cocktails at this Japanese restaurant in America was called the Pearl Harbor.
Ooh.
That is a thing that happened that people thought was a good idea. I have no idea. And by the way, they're not in business anymore, so that tells you something, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love how Rob Arment, yikes, nope. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to change the name of the one weapon in Fallout 3 when they took it to Japan because it's called the Fat Man. And it launches, it's like a mini nuke launcher. So it's like...
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah. Well, speaking of people showing their whole asses, Epic Games founder Tim Sweeney, he loves to do this, make himself sound like a fool, but he has compared the fight between Epic Games and Apple to the fight for civil rights. So I don't even know what else to say about that. I mean, what can you say about comparing something so comparatively unimportant to the civil rights movement?
To get the full quote out there, just so we have the full context, and it's not just us saying that, he said, it's everybody's duty to fight. It's not just an option that somebody's lawyers might decide, but it's actually our duty to fight that. If we had adhered to all of Apple's terms and, taken their 30% payment processing fees and passed the cost along to our customers, then that would be Epic colluding with Apple to restrain competition on iOS and to inflate prices for customers. So going along with Apple's agreement is what is wrong. And that's why Epic mounted a challenge to this. And you can hear of any and to something inaudible to civil rights fights where there were actual laws on the books and the laws were wrong and people disobeyed them, and it was not wrong to disobey them because to go along with them would have been collusion to make them status quo.
What an idiot.
Okay, I get it. I get it. It is a terrible analogy. Right. Like, I get what he's going for. It is stupid. It is.
Yeah, I do
really
get
stupid.
the broad strokes of what he's trying to say, but that is not the right comparison to make.
No,
not even close.
No, the psychology of it is he's thinking like, well, I'm putting civil rights in a positive light, and I'm doing something important too, and I'm just saying that it's important to fight for it. But no, you don't do that. Just don't go there.
Yeah.
And it's not as important as that. And I think that's where he's completely clueless, To him, he's so invested in this. This is his crusade. And like he's like he just needs this battle won because he feels like he's fighting for the little guy. And so he's mounting this thing on a mountaintop that is nowhere near the scale of what he's trying to compare himself to. But he seems to think that in his little microcosm, his little bubble, he seems to think that it's just as important. Or, at least trying to aid people in understanding why it's so important. And it doesn't land. And it's so funny that he doubled up on the comment too. And he's like, did you read it though? Did you read the comment?
This is what I was thinking. It's a good thing. And,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
It's
that's the sad part about all of this, really. Like when the whole thing started with the he used his game. What the heck? Fortnite.
Yeah.
He used Fortnite as a platform for this whole stupid thing, and he it was just with a little video there and making it ultra disgusting. I don't know,
making it all about 1984 and just trying to do that. Like again, he keeps trying to compare it to these grand things when it's a big corporation versus a big corporation.
Right.
Nobody cares.
Framing Epic as the underdog in anything is not the right move. Like, oh, look at us all scrappy with our billions. As someone, one of my favorite things in the replies to this tweet was somebody just said, hey Tim, remember that time Epic sued a little kid? Like, because a kid like broke the terms and services of Fortnite, doing something, I'm sure, and he was just like, oh well, that's not the same. And it's like, well, you're talking about a big guy bullying a little guy, right? This is actually a little child, and you took him to court. You know, so if you can kick little kids out of Fortnite and sue them, maybe Apple can kick you out of their playground too,
right? Well. And the even crazier thing about this is that, you know, no matter when you say something that's stupid, it's always a bad time to say it. But to compare that to the civil rights movement at this particular moment in American culture and what's going on in America, that just makes you look even worse. Like, what? Yeah. Especially right now. Like, what? So, yeah, but that's, you know, Tim Sweeney going to Tim Sweeney, right? So let's move on to our... final topic of the day, a new interview with Tetsuya Nomura has surfaced via Dengeki Online, where they talk about Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory's release and the fact that the series is going to be going on a bit of a release break following Melody of Memory's release. So it sounds as though we're probably not going to see anything new Kingdom Hearts-esque, or Kingdom Hearts-wise, in 2021, but that Nomura hopes to have good news to share with us for the series' was it 20th anniversary?
20th anniversary. I think they're just gearing up for the 20th anniversary and whatnot. I've read a little bit of the cliff notes they have of that. Yeah. Whereas like Dark Road, the whole Xehanort thing on mobile is not connected to anything future. It's just that team wanted to work on that idea, and It's not really set up for the future. It's just sort of, I guess, clarification. And we're going to get a bit of a break, which is fine. I was surprised we got Melody of Memory as soon as we did after Kingdom Hearts 3. So take the break, work on whatever's next. I have no idea what's going to be next, but let's, I feel fine with them taking a little break to get things ready.
Take as long as you need to make Kingdom Hearts 3's ending right, to make it right in the next game, to do it right in the next game, please. Some interesting little tidbits here also surfaced in this interview, not directly related to the series' future, but for example, Nomura learned from overseas staff that Yoko Shimomura, the composer of the series, is called Goddess by fans overseas, and he himself is called Papa, which I have not heard. I've never heard anybody call him Papa. Nomura Papa. Yeah. It's a little weird, right?
I can totally see people calling Shimomura a goddess. I'm pretty sure Ash has said that.
Oh, I'm sure I have, yeah. Nomura also, the reason he asked Shimomura to compose Kingdom Hearts is because of how easy it was to work with her on Parasite Eve. So that's an interesting little tidbit there. And the song that left the greatest... Oh, sorry for the sirens in the background, guys.
They're coming for you.
Yeah. That's what happens when you live above a major street in LA. Yeah. So the song that left the greatest impact on Nomura was Hikari, a.k.a. Simple and Clean by Hikaru Utada, which is not surprising. That's still a banger all these years later. And yeah, I think that's the biggest stuff from this interview. But it is interesting just to know that the series is going to be taking a bit of a break, and that's probably a good idea to kind of build hype for Kingdom Hearts 4 or whatever's next. Probably not 4. We'll probably be I don't think it's going to be years 4 on before we get 4. Yeah.
Yep. What do you think it's going to be? You think it's going to be like a new beginning, essentially?
I think it's maybe some title with some long division in it or something.
Yeah, the end of 3, and I haven't finished Melody of Memory yet to see what they set up, but basically, ironically, they're pulling from, or crazily enough, they're pulling from a lot of lore of the mobile game. That's what's coming up next, and we got this mystery box and the foretellers coming back, and it's like, okay, what does all this mean? And
not only that, but Nomura also seems to be completely unable to let go of his Final Fantasy Versus 13 fever dream. So it seems as though we're going to be getting Kingdom Hearts Versus 13, or at least some version of that.
Have you played Kingdom Hearts 3 at all? She says.
Very little of it. It was I don't know what it was. I think first of all, I think that the voice directing in that game was even worse somehow than 2.
Wow.
So
ouch.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. No.
But that's exactly what turned me off to it. And I apologize.
Fair enough.
But I remember I booted up. I was very excited too. I booted up the third game and was in Herc's land, and I don't know what was wrong with the actor, but it was so it was so distinguishable from his last performance in the movie that I didn't even think it was the same actor. And it was so flat and weird, and I was like, okay. I was like, who's playing Herc this time? And it turned out to be the same actor, and I was like, how is that possible? How?
That's fair. There were some voices in that game that definitely fell flat. I don't think they all did, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I guess I didn't get far enough into it, to be honest with you, to be able to figure out. But there was a lot of things that I was kind of a little apprehensive about going into the game. One of the things that is very important to me, I by no means invested in the lore of the game. It's fine for it to be there, and I try not to criticize it for being so obtuse. But I say that being a person that can enjoy the game in a different way, and that's what worlds am I going to explore, what characters are going to be on my team, and and how fun is it to play. And for the third game, they went really hard. It must have been, I don't know whether or not it was the ambition of the team or if it was overhead from Disney, kind of forcing them to put in more relevant IP. But a lot of the worlds did not resonate with me, and I was kind of hoping to see some deeper cuts. 2 was awesome, had Tron in it, it's stuff like that. Memory of
Memory, yeah.
Yeah, the Steamboat Willie stage.
Timeless
River. Timeless River,
right? That's it.
Yeah. Those were great. I loved those. And so for 3 to kind of take the opposite route and
go very much modern with theirs.
Yeah.
I get that.
You made a really good point there, Shesez, about Tron, because we got the Tron Legacy world in Dream Drop Distance, which acted itself as a sequel to what happens in the regular Tron world in Kingdom Hearts 2. And we never got that resolution between Sora and Tron. They were such good friends. Sora fights Rinsler.
We need a new Tron
then we never get the resolution.
We need a new Tron movie to make it happen.
Which apparently we're getting with, what's his name? The Joker actor, Jared Leto.
Oh, God.
I don't know why. That's unfortunate. Yeah, right. Yeah, so that's a shame.
Yeah, they need to get some... It would be nice to have some more classic cuts. I'd love to see Robin Hood or something like that, or go from the Disney
Robin
Afternoon
Hood,
or something.
For me, Saturday Morning Cartoon Land would be amazing.
Yes, exactly.
Duck,
Disney Afternoon Land, just
Tailspin,
something like that.
Speaking of the voices in Kingdom Hearts 3, I've been thinking about what you said, Shesez, and for me, the most egregious example of acting that fell flat to me in that game, and there was a lot that I liked, but Xehanort. Unfortunately, no one can be Leonard Nimoy.
No,
may he rest in peace.
Not even Christopher Lloyd.
Leonard Nimoy is absolutely singular, but unfortunately, not only is the guy they got to replace him not Leonard Nimoy, I just don't think he was very good, especially for such an important
Ash, that was
character.
Christopher Lloyd.
Really?
Christopher Lloyd played Xehanort, yes.
Ah, wow. Well, we all have misfires. It's okay.
Yeah.
We all,
he's up there in age.
He is up there in age, and he had that kind of
incredible legacy. But every time he gets put in something these days, he's old, and he's trying his best, but he doesn't have that same energy that he used to. So,
again, Nimoy made Xehanort in Birth by Sleep. I fell in love with that character just because of that. Oh, that's right, Ishi Dragon. He only played him in the DLC. In the main game, he was played by another actor that passed away soon after.
Oh, he did?
It was, I think it was Rutger Hauer.
Oh, okay. Well, now I feel bad knowing he passed away. I feel terrible. Well, then
it was Rutger Hauer,
and
then for the DLC, they had Christopher Lloyd. So I was playing this, I'm like, I'm a little worried for Christopher now.
Jeez, yeah. Well, then... I take back what I said. May he also rest in peace. And I may not have been a fan of the performance, but still, I'm sure he gave it all.
You're just so used to Leonard Nimoy, what he brought to the table.
True.
At that point, they got him in a freaking PSP and 3DS game, not console, but handheld games. It's crazy.
I'll never forget when I saw Transformers. What is it? The third Transformers movie, the Michael Bay one. And I had no idea that Leonard Nimoy was in it and played Sentinel Prime. So when I started hearing him, I'm like, Sentinel Prime, just say Keyblade. Just once. Say Keyblade or something. Darkness.
Wow.
It was so cool to hear him in that movie. Yeah.
real quick to bring it back to the whole versus 13 thing. There's a game within a game in the game, thanks to the Toy Story world, featuring a character named Yozora, which basically is in concept and just in gameplay is very much akin to how versus 13 was looking originally. And then in the post game, turns out Yozora might be an actual character that Sora got whisked away to.
Yeah. So we don't really know what's going to happen, but it does seem like The World Ends With You is going to continue to be an influence in the series if the teaser for whatever's going on in the Versus 13-esque world is any indication. So it's definitely interesting. I just, I'm still going to continue to have a problem with that part of Kingdom Hearts 3's ending, but we'll see what happens. We will see what happens, and maybe this will all end with Sora being in Smash, and that would be a very happy ending. So who knows? But that is all our news for the day. So I think it's about time for us to wrap this up. But before we do, Shesez, where can our audience find you?
So you can find me on YouTube if you'd like. You can type in Boundary Break in the search engine, and I should pop up. Type in your favorite game, too. There's a good chance I might cover it. 150 episodes now at this point. But big thing that I would love, if you've already watched Boundary Break or something like that, I'm streaming a lot more on Twitch, which is /Boundary Break with no space. Been having a ton of fun there. So if you want to hang out with me and just play games and stuff, that would be awesome. But yeah, either one's fine. Whatever platform you're on, those are cool. But yeah, Twitch is like my new big thing, you guys. I'm like having so much fun with it.
Yeah, I've been enjoying getting back into Twitch streaming and doing all that. Having you pop up in the chat on an occasion.
Yeah, again, I've never been a Twitch person, but now I'm like watching all these people. I'm like actually addicted to it. So I'm in the culture now. I'm knee deep in it.
Well, just so all of you in the audience know, if you do go over and play some games with Shesez and that game is Smash, just know you're in for a challenge, because he and I have had some really good bouts over the years, and he's really good.
Play you again sometime, Ash.
I can take him.
Me too. We got to do it on your Twitch.
You and I'm like getting destroyed.
Sounds good to me.
Oh wait, when you play me, Derek?
No, when I played Shesez, like when it was early on,
Shesez.
I've never played Shesez before, but I think I might be on the same skill level. Nope.
Yeah.
How are you at Smash, Steve?
I am awful. I am irredeemable when it comes to Smash. I don't hold a candle to Derek, let alone you and Ash. So I would get wrecked pretty quick. But I do have a good time. So I have fun getting destroyed at Smash.
What character do you like to use?
So this is how you know I'm a scrub. I play Ryu, Cloud, and Little Mac.
So those are awesome.
That doesn't make you a scrub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, Little Mac is my least favorite character in the game, but that doesn't make you a scrub.
Oh, well, wait till you see how I use them.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. All right.
Zelda's still my main. Love her.
Sorry?
Zelda is still my main. Love her.
Nice. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you really picked up Zelda with Ultimate. Yeah. I've settled, of course, Mega Man's forever my main, but I think my top three have settled into being Mega Man, Lucas, and Palutena right now. So
nice.
They're the three. Lucas is so fun to use in this. PK Fire and PK Freeze are so OP in Ultimate.
Oh, yes, they are. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I've gotten so many KOs just from the PK Freeze alone. It's like, my God. It's so much different now. Banjo is my main. Like, I love Ridley. I like Hero a lot, but Banjo is just the most rounded character, and it's like, wow, they made
Banjo-Kazooie are so fun to use.
That's who
Plus,
Amy loves to play.
I'm just so happy they're in the game. They're probably like my fourth or fifth best. I'm playing as them and seeing them in Smash never fails to make be-smile.
Same.
It's just so cool to see
until
them
I start losing, then I'm like,
I would have made Simon or Richter one of my mains, but I got burned by the recovery too many times. I love them. I can do so well with them, but they can't recover. And you're done.
Same.
When you can get into like a good groove though with spamming their projectiles, you can be so annoying with Simon and Richter though. Yeah.
You can just
super annoying. But cool. Well, that about wraps things up for us tonight. So as always, we have to give a very special thanks to all our patrons at the producer tier and above for helping to make this show happen, because it would not be happening without all of you. And in addition, an extra special thank you to our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. And those fine folks include Rob Arman X, Dan Entwistle, Z Patty, Adam O'Sullivan, Floating Mew, Christopher, The D-Pad, Vesmio, OnStar, Dukemon, Diogo, Kieran Phillips, Benny Yao, Rosa Bowling, aka Mama Bowling, Geller, Shiny Turkey, Titus Malvolio, Jake Pelka, Michael Phone, Mitchell Herring, Top Dog 23100, Jay Acosta, and Game Explain. So remember, you also can become a Patreon over at patreon.com/gbgaming, where for as little as $5 a month, you can watch Today's News Tonight live and interact with us, the GVG crew, and our special guests throughout the show, like our patrons have been doing today. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and thank you to those of us who joined us for the show live, and thank you, Shesez, for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. So, until then, good night, and good vibes, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.